feels that his or her right have been impugned upon by the comments of the guest of Arise or any person, or even Kenneth Okonkwo, I think the platform is there. They have the whole plenitude to bring up action against a person and then prove by preponderance of credible evidence and balance of probability before the court, then obtain damages if they feel so. But I doubt if anything can come out of it.
Okay, we will keep having this conversation like so many Nigerians. We here, we're also surprised. We went through that and we were wondering, what is it that was said that was contrary to reason, that is not already in the public space? I couldn't really find any, because I want to believe that the NBC will have to have a review at some point or somehow. But before we wrap up on this conversation, let's not take for granted that it's being said that where your right ends is where another person's right begins. In as much as we're talking about forgery right now, or perjury as the case may be, two different alleged crimes that is suspected to have been committed by Nigeria's president, which brought it through the process that brought him, that infringed on the process that brought him to the seat of the presidency right now. He has not been found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction so far. These are all prima facie evidence that is in the public right now. Is it also advisable that people, media practitioners, like you and I are sitting down here now, the rule actually say that we need to check whatever our guest is saying and all of that. But while we're doing that, we're sitting down here right now, yes, there's something you would say. You would have already said it before. It's gone out before I can say, hey, don't call the president whatever you may want to call him. In that case, if the media practitioner apologizes for the guest statement, should that also be taken out of context to say that? I'm looking at extreme cases right now. Should that, the media platform also be said to have, broken NBC codes?
Well, the issue there is the code of the NBC as specified under the law is to the effect that the media house shouldn't be a platform where you defame people. It shouldn't be a platform where you say some certain things to even allow commission of crime. Okay? So, however, in this instance, like you pointed out, the issue of Tinubu, or the issue of the forgery having not been found or pronounced by any competent court in Nigeria, that is another area. Now, it depends on what statement you make and how you make the statement. If you say that an alleged forgery is a different thing altogether, but if you say that a person has committed forgery, or Tinubu has committed based on the result released, then you are making yourself a court of a sort. You understand what I'm saying? Because the issue of forgery lies within the realm of criminal jurisprudence, okay? And now, for any person under the law to be said to have committed a crime, one, such a crime must be one that is stated in a written law, and the law allows that it is the competent court within the jurisdiction that is allowed to pronounce such a person guilty or not. At this instance, no court has pronounced, in Nigeria, has pronounced Tinubu to have been found guilty of forgery. Although, the only thing that transpired is that a Chicago court in the United States of America has given order to Chicago State University, and Chicago State haven't released the result. It's not a finality. There are other procedures to going about it, to confirming. And the only institution, saddled with the responsibility under the law to pronounce whether it's an issue of forgery or not is the court. So it depends.
No, but that hasn't been done yet.
That hasn't been done yet. So it cannot be said that Tinubu has forged within the purview of our laws. It's not within the common sense or reasoning of human. Okay?
But you can say that with alleged.
With alleged forgery. If you say alleged forgery, you are on the safe side, because you are not speaking with due certainty.
So if you, as a guest, sitting on this show right now, comes and say that President Tinubu forged his certificate, he committed perjury,
then there is a right of action has arisen for Tinubu to institute an action against the person who made the statement, inclusive of the platform, the media house. You understand what I'm saying? So it is good that where any person or guest has been invited to give an opinion on some certain national issues, you know what to say. Particularly looking at our laws, everything you say, every action you exhibit is guided by the law. You understand? So one must be careful as to what he says. Except he has been found guilty, found wanting within the purview of what the court will have to say as per what the certificate being released, because it's still subject to the review of the court in Nigeria to pronounce whether that is the position or not.
Okay, but you also know that given the deposition proceedings from the Illinois court in Chicago right now, which is out there, you lawyers have also talked about evidence based on prima facie, on the initial evidence. So if someone is standing on that document that is in the public right now to say, oh, he forged, committed perjury, with that platform, let's say you're my guest, and you just said, based on prima facie evidence, he forged, he committed perjury. And before that, you've already said, before I could come in to say, hey, it's still under investigation and all of that. Should the platform be queried for that? And should the guest who is saying, because the first form of evidence is prima facie evidence, should that guest should also be queried for doing that?
Okay, in our criminal jurisprudence, prima facie evidence is not sufficient for you to allege criminality. Now, we operate an accusatorial system of criminal justice in our corpus juris, in the bodies of our laws, such that Section 36 sub 5 of the Constitution says that any person who is alleged to have, any person who is accused of a criminal offense shall first be presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. And there is a procedure for proof of guilty. It must pass through the procedures of the law, of a law court, and then prove beyond reasonable doubt, which is the standard established by law for proof in criminal matters. So you have to pass through those procedures and prove your case before the person, then the court will have to rule one way or the other, pronounces either guilty or not guilty. There are instances where, though you have, like I have said, within our criminal jurisprudence, even if you are caught in the act, you are still presumed innocent until it is the court that will pronounce that either you are guilty or not guilty in that circumstance. So it depends on our justice system. The justice system presumed, which is a constitutional issue, provided for in fact, it's even a fundamental right, Section 36, which is found in Chapter 4 of the Constitution. So the presumption of innocence is a fundamental right of a person, so which is also vital.
Okay. So let's assume that Atiku and his team decide to further push this case in the U.S., in Chicago, until the court in Chicago declares that this person is guilty of A, B, C, D, and then they bring that case as a case file of a judgment passed in another republic to Nigeria, to present to Nigerian government, or to the court to say that this man was found guilty of A, B, C, D. Do you think that Nigerian law would also respect the fact that this person committed a crime in the U.S. and has been found guilty of that?
There are procedures. We have what we call, if you have a judgment from a foreign court, there is a procedure to bringing it to be binding within our jurisdiction. It has to be registered in Nigeria first before it becomes binding within the context of our laws. You understand? Nigeria practices a monism, dualism within international principles, of law. There are countries that practice monism. Monism, dualism, which are principles of international law, such that any law made and at the international level, even between Nigeria and another country, for it to be binding in Nigeria, it must be ratified. Section 12 of the Constitution. It must be ratified by the National Assembly. But in this instance, where judgment of another court in a foreign court is being given, it has to be registered in the registry of the Nigerian court and then approved by the necessary authorities before it becomes binding.
Okay, we'll talk more on this in the show later on, because Atiku had gone back to court seeking the Supreme Court's leave to present some of these findings. So the indigenous people of Biafra has expressed readiness for a peaceful negotiation and dialogue with the Nigerian government and a United Nations supervised referendum. IPOB spokesman Imam Powerful in a statement reads, IPOB's peaceful agitation for Biafra independence started in 2012. Never has IPOB been associated with violence or criminality in all years of rallies and protests. Nevertheless, Nigeria's government, through her murderous security forces, has levied war against IPOB. IPOB is ready to meet with the Nigerian government any day. They are ready for negotiations on Biafra referendum. IPOB supports peaceful separation from the contraption formed by foreigners called Nigeria. He said, we believe Biafra can be achieved without war and shedding of innocent blood of Biafrans or Nigerians. Powerful said, we are bold to say that IPOB has never raised arms against the Nigerian state, but we have defended ourselves and our land against herdsmen and their supporters. The man said, IPOB has not shedded any innocent blood and we will not shed any innocent blood, but we'll always defend ourselves against an attack from any quarter. He said IPOB is ready for dialogue of Biafra referendum dates and procedures. We want peace and are ever ready to live Nigeria in peace, but not the peace of the graveyard. We remain resolute and focused towards our goal, which is Biafra independence via a referendum. The earlier the Nigerian government scheduled a referendum date for Biafrans to decide their fate, the better for everyone. He said this message represents the views of our leader, the IPOB leader, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB leadership and the global family members of IPOB. He said IPOB stands for peace, they stand for dialogue, and they stand for discussions. The cardinal rule under which IPOB was formed is to lead the way to a peaceful separation of Biafra from Nigeria. Biafra and Nigeria are two different nations, according to Imam Paf. Now, there seems to be a bit of a shift from the norm, which is threats, violence, actions that will be taken if this is not done. There seems to be a shift from that to now say, hey, the truth is, we honestly want to leave Nigeria. We no longer want to be Nigerian. But we don't also want to shed innocent blood. However, given any situation that we are threatened, we'll have to defend ourselves. But if we have the UN, supervise a referendum between Biafra and Nigerian government, that they are game for that anytime the government of Nigeria seems to. President Tinubu did promise to negotiate with them, some of these groups, when he comes into power during his campaigns. It's been about 5 months since he came into power. There seemed not to be any conversation around that, not the release of Nnamdi Kanu, not to be bringing these guys to the drawing table, but at least get to understand when they talk about marginalization, what exactly they are talking about. Do you see Nigerian government now responding to this?
Well, I would advise, for the interest of peace, because for the IPOB have what they're agitating for. It is advisable, the president as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, it's good that he looks into these grievances. There are grievances, whether we like it or not, amongst these members of the IPOB, agitating for the independence of Biafra, which under the international law guarantees the self-determination of some persons, okay? However, I must state that, like I stated earlier, Nigeria being a sovereign nation is not a country that can be cowed, okay? Have its own laws, and like I also stated, practice dualism, where international law does not automatically become a law in Nigeria except being ratified by the National Assembly. Now, President Tinubu, I expect him, although he may argue that he still has time within which to address these issues. But I must state, the issue of national security is of vital importance that must be taken priority of over every other issue. So this issue of IPOP and the agitation, it's something that dialogue can actually resolve. Sitting together like he has promised in his campaign, it is good that he made good his promise. Sitting down with these human beings with rationality, with reasonings, and then with concerns also, who have their rights to air their views and to state their grievances because of their own, by virtue of their inclusiveness in Nigerian as a country. In as much as the IPOB is concerned and the people agitating, they are citizens of this country and as such have equal rights, just like every other citizen in Nigeria. So know their concerns, know what their grievances are. There is no problem that does not have solution, okay? So there are ways in which you tackle all these things and then sit down with these people and discuss with them. They will be open with you and then tell you what their grievances are. And then you, as the president or the commander-in-chief, the leader of the country, will know how to go about these things and then resolving the problems. And then you see that there will be peace all over, particularly in that part of the country. So I implore that Mr. President should make do his promise, his campaign promise, by calling these people and then talking with them, knowing their grievances, and then knowing how to resolve the issue, so that this issue of marginalization, some of it is the issue of marginalization, some of it is issue of, you don't know, that they may indirectly be agitating that they have not been given the opportunity to rule this country for a long time, despite being part and parcel of this nation. So they may feel aggrieved, they may feel sidelined, they may feel cheated upon. So why not look at some of these things and then call them together, talk with them, know what their problems are, and then, but it's only when you know the problem of a person deeply, that is when you know how to go about the solution. So it is good that the president rise to this occasion and then do according to how he has promised.
Okay, again, could it be that part of the reason why maybe the government of Nigeria, from President Muhammad Buhari, past administration of the APC, and now the new APC government of President Tinubu, could it be that the reason why they don't want to talk about this, why they don't want to have this conversation or bring them to the table, could it be that in doing that you would have given rise to other groups to begin to ferment trouble and also hope that they can be called for negotiations? Could it be the reason why you think that the Nigerian governments are not interested in having a roundtable conversation with these guys? And if that is it, what other alternative do you think that the government should be looking at to sort this whole issue out?
Well, if the Mr. President never had intention in the first place, he wouldn't have pronounced it as one of the campaign promises, to come into roundtable with these people. But I must state that there are very good strategies towards actualizing peace in every country. One is, irrespective of what other groups may think, you take the bull by the horn, but because bringing about peace in a country is not all about the bullet and gun approach, So it is all about solving the problem of people. Bringing about solution to the problem of people is a longer way to bringing about peace in the country.
Right.
Okay? So if that approach is being employed, I think to a greater extent, you even see yourself given some level of peace in the minds of the soldiers and the police and the armed forces, because these are human beings also, who have families. Okay? So, but overheating the polity by your policies, overheating the polity by your actions, sending the wrong signals to the citizens, and making them feel marginalized. Just like what happened, for instance, in the Niger Delta region and the agitation. Bullet and gun could not solve the problem. But when President Yaradua came in place, he put policies in place. And to a larger extent, Niger Delta has some level of peace.
Yeah.
By bringing up the initiative of amnesty. You understand what I'm saying? Amnesty and the existence of NDDC, inclusive. And then when these people have seen that they are now being carried along, the peace came. So there are different ways. It's not all about bullet and gun. When President Obasanjo was going to, send militaries going after them, it yielded no result. It only caused more problems, causing the destruction of lives and properties. But there are ways, different ways this can be brought to standstill, can be brought to a halt. And that is putting the right policies in place to ensuring that the desired peace is actualized. It's very, very important. So negotiation is not an aberration towards actualization of peace.
All right, thank you. Let's get into Lagos State. The Lagos State government, through the Lagos State Building Control Agency, has concluded plans to demolish all marked illegal structures, shanties numbering over 30 at Ogombo in Etiosa local government area of the state. General Manager, Lagos State Building Control Agency, Architect Bolahan Oki, disclosed this while addressing the media at the agency's headquarters in Ikeja, Lagos. Oki said the measure has become necessary in a bid to sanitize and propel compliance in the building industry in compliance with the state's building regulations. He also stated that most of the illegal structures, shanties in the area were built on government's land by building owners, developers who acquired land illegally without total disregard for the state's building codes. The general manager further stated that the issue of illegal construction on government's land in Ogombo area started several years ago despite effort by relevant government agencies to dislodge and dissuade the illegal occupants of the land without success. Okihu lamented the rate of illegal sales of government lands by land grabbers to owners, developers without proper documentation and disregard to state building codes, urged the building public to always embark on proper and relevant checks in order to know lands that are free for building construction in the state. I find it very interesting. Every time you hear the government say they are taking over lands, and then you hear them talk about that the individuals who are buying this land should ensure. Why do you think the government of Nigeria, both at the federal and state level, just like what the former governor of Rivers State is battling with in Abuja right now, why do you think that the government at the federal and state level have not deemed it fit to set up a proper mechanism to check available lands, for instance, whether for purchase or not, lands that are on government areas or not? Why do you think it's becoming difficult in 2023 for them to set up the mechanism? If Vivian wants to buy a land in Lagos, for instance, can I just go to the website and check the areas that are available so that I don't have to go through all of that process? So why do you think it's become a big deal? Because you're talking about demolition and doing all of that. You're talking about shanties. You're going to displace people. Some of the people you're going to displace, you don't have alternative. There's no low-cost housing where you're pushing them into. At the end of the day, some of them will turn into criminal devices in order to survive. And then we'll begin to say, oh, they robbed somebody, they did this. Why do you think we keep making the same mistake over and over again? In 2023, where apps and what have you have become like an easy thing for people to use to make their work easy.
Okay, in River State, for instance, I can speak for River State. I know that if you want to purchase any property and then do your due diligence as an individual, if you go to the Lands and Survey Department in River State to chart on that land, you find out the information as to whether that land is found in a government-acquired area or not, or whether such land is in the greater Port Harcourt city development or not. Okay? So any person who then wants to purchase, remember, before the government acquired such lands, they were once owned by individuals. And then by virtue of the Land Use Act, which gave the governor the ownership of the land, who must hold it in trust for the citizens of Nigeria, government may decide to acquire same, unknown to individuals in the public. Okay? So I will implore that for our advice that every citizen of Nigeria who wishes to purchase any land, the information is there. The information is there at the Ministry of Lands. The information is there at the Ministry of Lands and Survey, department of the ministry. Okay? So if you go in there, request for such information, for the charting of that location, that place will be charted for you, and then you will know whether there is government interest there or not before you proceed. Okay, that is why the issue of purchase of land is advised that before you go to make any payments in lands, you should ensure that you do your due diligence, and due diligence entails asking questions, making the necessary research, because an individual whose land has been taken away from him will be left with that idea that he still owns that land, okay? And then we find himself trying to negotiate in order not to lose out. So it is left for you not to fall, as a buyer, not to fall into that trap. By making your due diligence, making findings, go to the appropriate authorities for with the necessary, coordinates and the rest of them with the help of a surveyor. Also, you can chart the area, find out what areas, and to what extent, there is the government interest can be found in that location or thereabout. Okay, so the information is there. It's just that some individuals fail to utilize such avenue, to get the necessary information before investing their money in lands. Okay, so that is it. The information is there in the land registry, in Ministry of Lands and Survey, particularly in River State. I have made findings myself, and I've gotten information about some particular locations. If you go now to make findings, you also get
let me ask this quick question. When it comes to agents who do these sales, for instance, they log around ministries. Sometimes some of these lands are purchased through recommendation of the ministries, not outside of their recommendation. Yet when it's time in future, when the government wants to demolish, they tell you that they want to demolish irrespective of how you got this property. Now, if we have a safe place where you log into the website of Lagos State government or River State government, for instance, if you want to purchase a land, and now you look at the areas marked out that are open to sale, and then before you even go to the ministry, we have been informed on what you're going for. So you know that even when somebody says this to you, entering the ministries, they're always there. They're called agents who help in, so to say, making it easy for you to quickly process whatever you need. So if you know already what you're going to buy, if you know a product by name, you know what the product looks like, would it not help to mitigate whatever hitches or challenges you may have in future after purchase?
The issue there is we definitely...
We've not gotten to that level
for instance,
technology to do that.
Yeah, the technology is there.
Okay.
Like I told you, if you go to the land registry and you request for chart of a particular location, they log into their system. They have it in River State. For River State. And I believe in FCT, they should have that system as well. Okay. In place. Maybe
hopefully the FCT minister will do something like that.
If they don't say that, he will do something about it. But I know that it will be there. But that of River State, for instance, it is there. If you go and log into the system, you see the whole geographical location and the places, the particular location that government has interest in.
Without going to the ministry, you cannot log in to know that.
You have to write, because they have the database. the information.
So this information now is not centralized in a way that if I
Every
live
person
in the
can
US,
see.
for instance, I can log in to know that.
Well, I don't think they have gotten to that level. But, however, even if...
But because it makes it more transparent.
It makes it more transparent. But, however, even if such a system... But not everybody have the knowledge to read and understand geography. You understand what I'm saying? And so that is why you need... Yeah, that's why you need an expert to actually interpret, to actually give you the proper analysis as to the propriety or otherwise to forge on. So the best thing is to apply to the ministry. There is no harm in doing so.
All right, a quick one. A former Minister of Education and renowned activist, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, says if citizens unite, takes responsibility to change its leadership system, Africa can become the greatest continent in the 21st century. Dr. Ezekwesili, who spoke at the third 2023 graduation ceremony of the School of Politics, Policy and Governance Saturday in Abuja, said, if we succeed in correcting the leadership anomaly that we have on our continent, one thing is certain, Africa will claim the 21st century. She said, what ultimately concludes the matter is that Africa's problem is poor public leadership. We have said it so often as a continent. She said that the School of Politics, Public Policy and Governance is our answer and our response to that problem. We are saying that it is not our destiny to be governed by the worst amongst us. And if you reject a situation, then you must act to correct that situation. Dr. Ezekwesili is the founder of SPPG. She said the school was born out of the need to groom leaders with integrity to saturate the political and business sectors so as to cause positive change. She further urged the graduates to always be of good character and uphold the values of character, competence, and capacity preached by the school. She further warned that the certificate issued to them would be retrieved if they were found wanting in character or competence in any public office. All right, quick one. This is the core of the conversation. You cannot continue to say that this is a mess without providing a means to clean that mess. Repeating, oh, Africa has leadership problem every day wasn't a solution. But she has done something substantial, setting up this school to begin to groom fresh leaders. How impactful do you think this will be if we all begin to think in this direction?
Well, to a greater extent, it will create a very good impact by training and retraining of personnel towards the essence of this training is, building the character, integrity of persons. But however, we must state that the character of a person is sometimes acquired, right from when the person is, but depending on the environment the person grows. So it does not matter sometimes how much training you would want to give an adult whose character has already been formed, okay? Except such I would advise it should be included in the curriculum, of every level of education, starting from the cradle to the tertiary level. That is when you can say that you have actually built the character of a person towards leadership. But talking about an adult whose character has already been formed, if you are trained right from time, or if you grew up to be a thief, no amount of education or leadership training will change that in you, okay? So, but to an extent, it will go to an extent to give the information, create the awareness on the person as to the propriety or otherwise of bringing about meaningful development in a particular sphere when given the opportunity of leadership in a country or in your locality, okay? So that, to an extent, we cannot rule out the impactful nature of that institution to an extent. But I must state, I will advise that the Nigeria as a country should adopt that and then put it into the curriculum. Let it begin from the cradle to the tertiary level of our educational system. So that, because even the Bible says that train up a child in a way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So if you start from beginning to groom that child towards a particular character, which is the essence of education, channeling or showing him or her a particular way to follow, with respect to leadership, I think that child will grow and will, to an extent, will have more and more sanitized persons in terms of leadership qualities and reasoning in our society than, looking for a way to change an already grown adult.
All right. Thank you, Barrister. Yes, everyone will take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be hitting again at the academic record. That's Article 6 Supreme Court leave to fight fresh evidence, and there is more after that. But that will be when we come back from the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Atn Sunday Talk. Let's talk a bit more on the academic record of our president. So the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, in the pursuit to remove President Bola Tinubu, has applied for leave of the Supreme Court to further file what he termed as fresh evidence. Atiku, in the motion he filed through his team of lawyers led by Chief Chris Uche, said the evidence he is seeking to tender before the apex courts would establish his allegation that President Tinubu of the ruling All Progressive Congress APC submitted forged documents to the Independent National Electoral Commission in aid of his qualification to participate in the presidential election that held on February 25th. The former vice president maintained that President Tinubu, by his action, committed a twin offense of forgery and perjury, and therefore deserved to be sacked from office by the Supreme Court. Specifically, Atiku sought the leave of the court to tender Tinubu's academic records, which he said were handed over to him by Chicago State University on October 2nd, 2023. Now, according to the motion, the 32-page documents that was released by the Chicago State University on the orders of Judge Nancy Maldonado of the District Court of Illinois, Eastern Division, Illinois, United States of America. Atiku predicated his motion for leave to file fresh evidence against Tinubu on Order 2, Rule 12, Subsection 1 of the Supreme Court Rules 1985, Section 137, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, as well as the inherent jurisdiction of the apex court as encapsulated in Section 6 of Section 6A of the 1999 Constitution, though the application was dated October 5th. However, Atiku's legal team perfected the filing process on Friday night. The PDP flag bearer basically prayed the court for an order granting him leave to produce and for the court to receive fresh and additional evidence by way of the position on oath from the Chicago State University for using his appeal, the certified discovery deposition made by Caleb Westberg on behalf of the Chicago State University on October 4, 2023 as a registrar. This claimed the certificate presented by the second respondent as Bola Tinubu to the Independent National Electoral Commission. So he equally prayed, Atiku, that he equally prayed the apex court to receive the said deposition in evidence as exhibit in the resolution of his appeal, and to further make orders that the apex court may deem it fit to make in the circumstances of the case. There's been several calls from several quarters saying that Tinubu has to be sacked, that there is no way the Supreme Court is going to sit on it. But now Atiku claimed he probably wasn't able to file this evidence he has as at Friday, which was the deadline, October 5th. So he's asking now the court to give him the leave to do that. First, do you think the Supreme Court is going to give him leave, accepting this? Is there a room legally for him to still file this, being that the deadline of October 5th?
Well, if it were a normal civil proceedings, it would have been very, very possible. But election petitions are very peculiar proceedings, as with their own peculiar procedures as provided by the Electoral Act and the Constitution. So time is of essence when it comes to issues of election petition, starting from the tribunal, which is at this instance, the Court of Appeal, and even the appellate level, okay? So the law is very clear, and the Supreme Court has severally decided in several decisions, plethora of authorities, that when a matter with respect to the computation of time as provided by the Electoral Act is an issue, that it is taken very seriously, such that failure to comply within the time specified by the law or the Electoral Act will be used against the person who is seeking remedy under the law. Now, the time for appeal from the Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, as provided for by the Supreme Court's election petition practice direction, is 14 days, which 14 days to file your notice and grants of appeal. Okay? And that 14 days has elapsed. This motion was not brought. Also,
it was dated 5th of October.
5th of October.
Yeah.
Yes. Dated 5th of October, but when are you filing it? They have already exchanged briefs of argument. You have 14 days within which to file, as enshrined under the law. you have 7 days within which to file your brief of argument, and the respondent have 5 days to file their own brief of argument. And then, for the where you have a reply, you have 4 days or 3 days, as the case may be. So those days have elapsed, you know, and the law in Uhuru versus Awuse, the Court of Appeal stated that the practice direction, which is a practice direction made under the Constitution, okay, is of very vital importance, that the interpretation of it is very, very strict and must be followed, okay? So when looking at the nature of the election petition, which is sui generis, in the plethora of authorities which the court have pronounced, the Supreme Court itself has said that the law, as the time as specified under the Constitution and Electoral Act, is like the rock of Gibraltar or Mount Zion that cannot be moved.
Okay? Now, let's assume that what we don't know from that report is whether they had filed some, and now these are like fresh evidence, because some of the things that I've been reading, there are fresh evidence that were not included. So let's not assume that they had already filed some from the findings of the Chicago State University. Now, but maybe this is like a supplementary evidence that they want to attach to that.
Okay, what they did was they pleaded the documents, or they pleaded the circumstance before actually they applied.
Okay.
Okay? It's a fact without any document to back it up.
Okay. It's without fact.
Without fact to back it up.
Okay.
Which the court had already ruled. And you never had the opportunity to present such document because you never had it handy as at then. That is what is playing out. And now the law allows you, in some circumstances, that even at the appellate court, even at this stage, at the
that. Now, here is why this is critical. Let us assume, without conceding, that if the Supreme Court did not accept it, the Supreme Court decides to rule based on what the tribunal had already ruled on the Presidential Election Court, and decides to say, oh, all of their findings were incompetent and what have you, and decides to say that President Tinubu should continue in office. If the findings from Chicago State University is anything to go by, you do realize that we have a president who presented documents that's allegedly falsified that he wasn't supposed to present. And we allow him to sit in the course of power because the president, the Supreme Court cannot go against its rule by saying this. Is that what we're looking at here?
Well, the Constitution in the first place, in that section 137 as relied upon, one of the criteria upon which one would be disqualified from contesting any election is where one has been found wanting of forgery of a certificate. The Constitution is clear about that. However...
But he has contested.
Yes.
He has been declared. He is the president.
Yes. Now, the issue there is, he has been declared. He is the president. Okay? As at when he submitted this document, there would, in fact, before the election itself, it would have been anticipated by whoever wants to rely on that document. You understand? Making it available for tendering in court. Okay?
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on.
That is okay.
Hold on. You're contesting election. I'm contesting for the same position from different political parties. I didn't have access to your certifications, just like you didn't have access to mine. But the election umpire had access to it. Now, at what point am I supposed to now say that, oh, your result is not authentic, if I don't have it prior to the elections? It's like saying, It's like saying I can steal an SUV, I can steal a car. So long as I wasn't caught, I can keep using that car.
Yes.
And that becomes okay. Yeah. But everybody knows that I stole that car. But because I have already passed the stage where I can be judged to have stolen a car, so it doesn't matter anymore. Is that what the law looks like in Nigeria?
Okay, ordinarily.
Because it's like saying again, you caught a thief. You've been looking for something, and you saw that the person who has it is seated somewhere on the rock. And then there's a way to get to that person. But it has, oh, he had already crossed. Let him just stay there. There's no point. Is that what the law looks like in Nigeria?
Okay, let me come in. Prior to the election, in fact, in 1999, this issue was brought up even by Gani Fayemi himself. So it is a public knowledge.
But the court also allowed him to become a governor in 1999.
That is because nobody took the steps necessary.
Gani took the step. Tinubu had lawyer, Lent was Falana then, who was his lawyer and fought the case for him. Why Gani was saying, no, this is not what it is. And then somehow he won. He became, the court ruled in his favor.
What?
He was also a senator.
What?
He even had the NYC certificate. I saw a publication on This Day newspaper back then. He had NYC certificate. He had the Chicago State University. He had WAEC and all of that. We can't find any of that.
Okay, what Gani Fayemi of the Blessed Memory did then, as a then, was going to the court, seeking for the order of the court to compel the Attorney General of the Federation and of Lagos State to go and make investigation as to the results of Tinubu.
Okay.
That was what was before the court. Okay. So now, it is just recently that the proper step have been taken. Okay?
Now,
and that is going to get, just like someone alleging.
So now that it has been gotten,
okay,
and the school itself said, no, what you're showing us from your election umpire is not our result. As a matter of fact, this person did not even, his result is still in our folder. He's yet to come for it. We don't know this result that you're claiming that came from your election umpire. And now, if the investigation has got to the point where the U.S. court authorized the deposition process, which has been carried out, and findings have unraveled that there may be a case of forgery and perjury, you are saying that, not you now, the law. The law is saying that because it happened like this person had already passed through, there's nothing that can be done.
Well,
what then are we saying to the over 200 million Nigerians who are watching this?
Now, let me come in. We have the law. The way the law operates is beyond ordinary imagination or ordinary human. It is given by humans, but it goes beyond sentiment. Okay, let me say it that way. Now, we have procedure under the law. The law specifies in Madukolo versus in Kedilim by the Supreme Court that before you properly bring a case before the court, you may have a very good case, but the way you bring the case before the court is another thing altogether, whether you are succeeding or not. The law has specified procedure in which you are going to bring this matter before the court. Okay? Madukolo specify that, one, there are different ways in which you can impugn on the jurisdiction of the court. One, the qualification of the judge. Two, not bringing it within the proper procedure as specified by the law. And what is the proper procedure here? Like I have stated, election petition...
You have clarified this. What we are saying, I'm asking generally is that, is the Nigerian law so weak that even when he found out that that man on that rock falsified the process that brought him to the victory of saying, oh, I have the Nigerian flag now, I've gotten to the peak of this rock. Even when because we've seen situations beyond Nigeria anyway. There is a Supreme Court ruling on forgery and why forgery should about a senatorial candidate some time ago by a retired judge. We have also seen across the world where someone had actually been given a victory over a race. And then the umpire comes back to say, no, we're withdrawing this because you did not merit this. And I'm saying again, yes, Atiku may not be able to file, the process had already closed as at Friday, 5th of October. Okay. Looking at a nation of over 200 million people, Are you saying that our law is so weak that it cannot look at the process that brought that person there and call back that person to say, return the medal given to you, this does not belong to you? Because the process that got you there was falsified.
Okay.
Is our law that weak?
Yeah, no, you can't address our law as being weak in that direction.
I'm asking a question.
No. It is not a matter of weakness.
Okay, let me see if I can paint another picture.
Okay.
I took something that does not belong to me. I know fully well that I robbed, I stole this. But because I have already used it, I've already taken it, I've possessed it, you found out that, Vivian, this is actually mine. Vivian knew that this wasn't hers, it was yours, and I took it still because I think I'm smarter than you. You mean that if you should go to court, the court can look at me to say, okay, she had already used it, there's no point, let her just continue using it. Is that what we are looking at here?
Remember?
So look at this beyond the lecture, what Atiku is fighting for. Look at the 200 and something million Nigerians and the impact of this.
Yes. Now, remember, one, justice is for all in the first place. Okay? Remember that a judge who is sitting there as an arbiter is not part and parcel of your transaction. Is not part and parcel, though a Nigerian, you may publish anything in the media, but still subject to the scrutiny of the court. The court is not there, or it is not the deal to jump into the arena, to go into investigation. The court depends on the evidence, the quality of evidence presented before it arrives to a decision. Because if the court were to take sides, leaving out the principles or procedures of the law as to proof, then we are in trouble. The justice system will be in trouble because definitely sentiment will come into it. But that is why we have the laws. This is the procedure or the guiding principles upon which you should realize justice as enshrined under the law. So what you follow is the law. Remember, like I have earlier said, it is your duty. Who has alleged under the Evidence Act? Say you who has alleged. It is your duty to prove to the court. Although it sounds so weird, it sounds so offensive that someone has allegedly forged a certificate. Yes. But right from inception, what is before the court? The court has ruled several times that the court is not a Father Christmas that it should award to you what you did not pray for.
Okay, no.
Okay?
No, okay.
Or even if you pray, you do not lead sufficient evidence to prove your allegation. That is how the court operates.
Let's look beyond Atiku, like I said. Let's look beyond the politicians, whether it will be Kwan and whatever they filed in the Supreme Court. I want to bring another story now, because all along it's being looked at as Atiku versus Tinubu. But what a lot of people are yet to understand is that it is now beyond Atiku versus Tinubu.
Yes.
Nobody really cares about Atiku in this case, right? It's the fact that 200 and something million Nigerians are in focus right now. Now, here is Sarah on this particular issue over the warning given to Arise TV again. This is the angle the whole thing is shifting. So Sarah is a socio-economic rights and accountability project has threatened. Sarah has threatened illegal action against President Bola Tinubu's administration over the last warning issued to Arise Television. Sarah charged Tinubu's administration to direct the National Broadcasting Corporation to withdraw the last warning to Arise TV or face legal action. NBC has sternly warned Arise Television against the use of derogatory and incendiary remarks on its station. The warning is coming on the heels of the controversy surrounding Tinubu's academic record recently released by the Chicago State University in a bid to educate the public on the possible consequences of the president's certificate, which the opposition alleged does not tally with the one submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission for the last election. So the TV station had has had interviews with several guests. NBC in a later issue to the TV station by the commission director, Dr. Valara Beche Ilale, expressed worries that some of the guests used derogatory words during the interview. To this end, NBC had issued its last warning to the station. However, Sarah frowned at the final warning NBC issued to the TV station. Now, you know we're talking about Atiku versus Tinubu. If you notice in this story, Sarah didn't talk about Tinubu, Atiku or Tinubu. Sarah is talking about this federal government and who is at the center of that. What is the core issue here? A TV station is now in the middle of this. Mesoma had a case of forgery. We discussed it, even took her to the National Assembly. Now, National Assembly is silent, not saying anything about this. Now, a TV station, just like we're doing here, is being attacked by a government agency. Now, you see how this is degenerating from the political class or political opponents to now Nigerian Institute. Again, let me also ask, are you saying as a lawyer, a good one at that, by the way, that in Nigerian law, we look at the evidence that is across board, locally and internationally, will not do anything about these allegations or will not give room for this allegation to even be proven in court, considering how damaging it is to this country. And just say, because it did not come before us, we're not going to talk about that, and then the president will continue and we'll all pretend like nothing happened.
That it is not that this cannot be brought before the courts, but with respect to this election petition, it cannot fly any longer.
So how?
However,
okay, good.
However, now looking at our constitution now, the president is now the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Talking about Serap, who is threatening about bringing up legal action. Our constitution is very clear that the president is immune. Because what we're talking about is the certificate of Tinubu, not the presidency. You understand? So if you're bringing action, it's directed to the president himself. So now he has immunity.
He has immunity, good.
Against criminal and civil proceedings. Why he is the president.
We know that.
Now,
we know that.
Now, the only time this can scale through, particularly when it comes to issues of electioneering, is after this election petition has ended. And then maybe before the next election.
So can I ask you?
You understand what I'm saying?
Can I ask you? It's good that you're a lawyer and you're in the studio and we're having this conversation. Because what you're basically saying, and just like several other lawyers who know the Constitution better, is that because this was not brought before the Supreme Court alongside the main affidavit or petition, nothing can be done outside of the election petition petition in the Supreme Court until he is without immunity. If that is the case, the Nigerian Constitution, from the legislature to the executive and its operators, like maybe lawyers, are basically telling Nigerians that a man who
confab during the time of Goodluck Jonathan to see how the constitution will actually reflect the will of the people. But that is the law we have at hand. We have an institution, which is the judiciary, that is saddled with the responsibility of interpreting the law. And now, in interpreting that law, we have arbiters, who are the judges, who sit to listen to you. The law has provided, this is the procedure in which you must come to the court. This is the procedure in which you must meet up with for us to actually say you have justice in a particular matter. That is the law we're operating on, okay? Now, the law says, for you to be entitled to justice, you must prove your case, because we as the justices, we are not there when it happened. We did not attend the same school with Tinubu. We did not make the application for the Chicago, at the U.S. court to go and to make the necessary orders for Chicago State University to release these results, okay? What the court will depend on, have you made application of this reason? Where is it? If you are alleging that there is forgery, to how extent have you been able to prove to us that there is forgery? Those are the questions, okay? That is how our law is being structured.
No.
It's not all about, it go beyond sentiment.
No, we're not talking about sentiment.
Or morality.
We're not talking about sentiment. So here is what I always ask lawyers on this, since this issue came up, and that is this. If I decide to go, if we allow this, I say we as a people now, allow this to go without proper check, or opening the books and questioning the entities by the president in terms of his documentation and all of that. If we remember, there is an issue of his electoral process that brought him to power that is being questioned. Now, that's on one side. So if we allow this, this is another side. Certification is another aspect of it. If we
which is before the court. Which is a fact before the court.
Which of them?
That the certification itself, it is part and parcel of the fact before the court. But
yes,
whether it is being
evidence attached to it was they were not able to deliver it before the time.
Yes, that's what we're saying. And now, what does the law say with respect to election petition, which is sui generis?
No. You are the lawyer. You're not contesting what the Constitution says and all of that. But we are looking at beyond elections, and we are being told that nothing can be done until he's without immunity. So if immunity is final, even if I can murder somebody before and so I can become a governor or a president, and it doesn't matter so long as nobody cuts me before that, that makes it okay. So if that is where we are as a country right now, on what law now, on what law would anybody hold me responsible if my company finds out that I forged the certificates to get a job in this company, for instance, and I don't have that the certificate I have, I forged it, and they discover that I forged the certificate? What moral right does my company have to deny me the opportunity to work here?
Okay, now, first of all, your company, as an individual, now, the issue of forgery, like I have told you, lies within the realm of criminality, inclusive of perjury. Perjury means lying on oath, okay? Now, if your company, assuming without considering, makes their findings, look, our employee who have been under our employment forged his or her certificate. What they will do, first of all, go to the investigating agency. Let them investigate. There is procedure.
And they find me guilty.
And then they will have to go through the rigors of charging the matter to court. At that point, before the charging to court, nobody can allege with certainty because you have the right of action within that period.
In essence,
now, if you have been found guilty by a competent court, pronounced guilty that you forged your certificate, then I can certainly, with due certainty, say you forged your certificate because I have justification.
No. They were talking about what should the company do when they find me guilty.
The company will sack you.
Why?
They sack the person.
Why?
Because you have been found guilty.
So if the president is found guilty, because he has immunity, he will continue to sit in as Nigeria's president. He will not be sacked.
In the first place, the law does not allow you to even bring up the proceedings against him. Not to even talk of.
Sorry, we're saying the same thing.
Talking about Serap. But this issue of election petition, which is talking about bringing in evidence, this evidence is a different thing altogether. Whether it will enter or the Supreme Court will accept it or not is a different thing.
I said to you that if you notice, Serap, there are two institutions involved now. NBC is involved. It's being questioned by Serap. Arise TV is being questioned by NBC. What is the center point of all of this? Alleged fraud certificate of Mr. President. So that is the bone of contention. It's gone beyond Atiku, Tinubu, the political opponents now into affecting Nigerian institutions, and who knows what more outcome will be there for it. So if you put all of this together now and say, okay, the only reason why people can get away with certain things in this country is because they have immunity. They cannot be investigated. They stay there. And now, you who doesn't have immunity, you will be investigated and prosecuted in the same country.
Yes.
In the same law.
Yes.
All right, we'll take a short break, everyone. We'll come back to you after the break. Welcome back to Atn Sunday, everyone. Now, the federal government has suspended the Empower program indefinitely. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, made the announcement of the indefinite suspension while speaking in an interview on Saturday. According to Edu, the decision was birthed by some irregularities within the scheme. Meanwhile, the minister said the government has launched investigation into the utilization of funds since the inception of the program. She stated that some of the beneficiaries are not found in their place of assignment, yet they expect monthly stipends. The minister said some of the beneficiaries ought to have exited the program since 2022, but are still on the payroll. I recall the Empower program was launched by the President Mohamed Buhari-led administration to address the issue of youth unemployment and help increase social development. Okay, a lot of Nigerians have already suspected this long ago that there seems to be some kind of fraud or corruption within the Empower or the social welfare schemes of the past administration. Now, the minister is coming out to confirm that. Let's have you react to this.
Yes. She is at a better place to oversee and then fish out those corrupt practices in the scheme. But however, I must vent my sentiment on this Empower, which is a short-term scheme. It's not, to me, it's not a way of alleviating poverty or unemployment in the society or country, Nigeria. If you want to alleviate poverty, if you want to reduce the level of unemployment, it's not a short a short-term scheme, such as Empower, which has no sustainability. Okay. Now you give some persons some period of time within which to work and get some stipends, and once that time comes to an end, that is the finality of it, and the person goes back to the status quo of unemployment. What have you done? So to me, I would say that this Empower of a thing, instead of government should channel their energy towards it, let them channel their energy towards creating industrialization. Let them channel the energy towards creating avenues for re-employment, sustainable employment, rather than giving hope when there is none to citizens.
Okay. Let's quickly get to Benue State. The Benue State Task Force on Illegal Mining has vowed to apprehend individuals, groups, or organizations involved in illegal solid mineral mining in the state. The task force also cautioned against the use of child labor in mining activities in parts of the state, warning that such acts would not be tolerated. The chairman of the task force, Dr. Comfort Adadu, who sounded the warning weekend while addressing the media and marketing on the activities of task force, assured that her team would ensure that every untoward activity in the sector was checked. She noted that aside being the food basket of the nation, Benue State is also blessed with various solid minerals in the commercial quantity. Dr. Dadu said the task force are taking decisive steps to stamp out all forms of illegal mining in the state, and by so doing, giving all miners operating in Benue up to November 2023 to regularize their activities by belonging to recognized or registered groups or cooperatives in order to enjoy the recognition of the government. Now, the threat to clamp down on illegal miners. Again, I ask, why do the government in Nigeria always like to start at the middle and not at the beginning? If people are mining illegally, why don't this agency, for instance, that's go back to the regulations, the law binding these people, begin to go back to, like, how did we get it wrong? Clamping down on them, you do that for 1 or 2 months. Afterwards, what happened?
Those are the right policies I'm talking about. It is good that these things, we don't allow them to happen.
Okay.
One, like the issue of industrialization I'm talking about, getting the right investors, indigenous or foreigners, who would come to man this thing, and then put the necessary laws in place to ensuring that you create manpower, leveraging on the local content, to ensuring that you empower the citizens as to how to creating industries that would be able to, meet up to this expectation of mining, rather than giving that leverage for individuals who go there to do it illegally. For instance, we had the issue of modular refinery in Niger Delta region. There have been reports as to the creation of it. That will give the opportunity to an extent of these illegal, pipeline vendors or people who go into illegal refining, to helping it reduce drastically, because you are creating opportunities where, looking at the situation and looking at the whole scenario, ensuring that you create an avenue to remove those people from that place rather than chasing after them, to hunting them, because there is a reason that brought them there: hunger. So if you are able to create that avenue, leveraging on the situation, to creating an avenue, just like you did in modular refinery, look for a way. There are ways to going out of these things. Giving the avenue, if government should identify this and bring them and then push them for training, giving them the enablement to create their own industries, okay, where they would do this thing legally, making them to pass through the due process of the law to ensure that they are legitimized, particularly given the legal flavor to operate. You see that these people would then be employers of labor, will then have the manpower, the enablement to even employ these people who do this illegally, and then drastically it will reduce the illegal mining.
All right, thank you. So there are emerging indications that Ondo State House of Assembly will be proceeding proceeding with impeachment of the Deputy Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, following his refusal to respond to allegations of gross misconduct leveled against him by state lawmakers. Now, the 7-day notice given to the Deputy Governor has since elapsed. However, there is a substituting order of the Federal High Court in Abuja restraining the House from proceeding with the impeachment until the court determines a suit filed by Aiyedatiwa. But the House has said that the court cannot stop the exercise as it submitted that it stands to proceed with impeachment is protected by the Nigerian Constitution against the interference of courts. Now, what are we looking at legally speaking here? There is a court order asking them not to proceed with the impeachment process. But we are learning that there is the State Assembly is making move to go on with impeachment. What are we looking at here?
No, that's against the principles of rule of law for them to disobey There is a stage under the section 188. They are still they have not gotten to that stage where we will say that the court will not have to interfere.
Okay.
The only level where the court will not have to interfere with the procedure is after, because the law at this stage, after the 7 days notice has been given, the law still permits the State House of Assembly at this instance to, by a motion within 14 days, decide whether or not they would deliberate or continue with this investigation. And the language of the law in the Constitution is a shall, which is mandatory. They must do that. They have not passed the last stage. It's after that they have done that then they will submit the report to the chief judge. The chief judge then, they will submit it within 7 days. Then the chief judge within 14 days is supposed to form a committee of seven-man panel to then look into this, investigate into this allegation of gross misconduct against the person of the deputy governor. So it is when this panel is carrying their function that the courts, after their report has been emanated, the panel that will be set up by the chief judge.
Okay.
It is when the chief judge set up his panel, and the panel to seven-man panel.
But the chief judge is one of the people that the deputy governor sued.
It is national because it has not gotten to its own stage.
Okay.
As a matter of fact.
Okay.
Yeah. So now this stage is when they have already served him with the notice.
They have, and it has elapsed.
It has elapsed. The Constitution says whether he responds to the notice or not, that the next step to follow by the State House of Assembly is to bring up a motion in the House to decide, by 2/3 majority of the House whether they should continue with the investigation or not. Okay? It is after that motion has been taken and concluded that the House will then send the report to the chief judge of the state. Then the chief judge of the state, after receiving the report within 7 days, will then form the members of the panel to carry out the investigation. Okay? So it is within this investigation period set up by the chief judge that the court does not have power to interfere.
All right.
So it is not this stage that I've gotten to.
All right, we'll keep bringing you all of the conversation on, those states, including the panel, the committee set up by the national chairman to investigate into it. But let's quickly look at Israel-Hamas crisis. The Nigerian government calls for de-escalation of the ongoing crisis between Israel and the Palestinian Hamas militant group. Now, Nigerian government is calling on this. China is calling for a two-state, a de-escalation too, but calling for a two-state creation, the state of Palestine and the state of Israel, of course. Now, there are several calls from different countries of the world, but what is interesting is that as early hours of this month, Netanyahu, the prime minister, is declaring war against Israel, against Palestine and Hamas. Now, what is also interesting in all of this right now is the fact that Hezbollah has also launched an attack against the state of Israel, launched 3 strikes, as a matter of fact, against the state of Israel as at early hours of today. And that's as a result of an existing crisis or territorial takeover allegedly by Israel. With all of these happenings, Do you think the world as it is in the present, with every country having their own crisis and their own issue, looking at how Israel's revenge or fallback when it comes to attack can be, do you think the world can pay the close attention to what is going on in Israel right now? And because over 100 people have been killed, Israelis, and they have also taken off 200 persons, and of course there will be more. Do you think the world is ready to actually pay attention to what is going on in Israel right now?
Well, that is within the function of the United Nations, if you may ask me. It is not for an individual country to give opinion. Because whether we like it or not, it's just like an individual. What is obtainable to individual is obtainable to a state. It's obtainable to a country. Every country have their friends who they will always lean on when trouble comes, you know. So it's just like China has given their own opinion that there should be two states. United States of America under Trump had already given his opinion by even declaring, sending the embassy of the U.S. embassy to Israel, to Jerusalem, proclaiming Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel. You know, so all this boils down to I think the United Nations have failed in their bid, which is the main purpose upon which it is being set up, for the purposes of upholding peace amongst nations. But it has shown that it is unrealistic. And countries, sovereign nations now take laws into their hands, particularly the stronger ones against the weaker ones, you know. But to me, if you ask me, I'm not here to sit as an arbiter between Israel and Palestine, however, but from although Bible is not the only religious book or book that contains history as to so many countries, but I would say that even the Bible has proclaimed Jerusalem long ago as part and parcel of Israel.
So
if you ask me.
Yeah, with the Democrats in the U.S. right now having the sway in terms of what should be and what should not be, with the Russia and Ukraine war that's been going on, and if you look at all of this side by side, and I ask again, is the world ready to pay attention to what is going on in Israel? Or at this time, are they going to leave them to your tent, oh Israel?
The readiness of the world boils down to the union already formed. That is the United Nations.
Yeah, but you also said that the UN doesn't seem, because right now, I was trying to find out their stand in all of this. 200 Palestinians or Hamas have already gone down.
Yes.
100 Israelis. Netanyahu has declared war.
Yes.
As far as it's concerned, this is war. And now Hezbollah have pitched tent with Hamas to attack Israel. They've already fired 3 strikes as at early hours of today.
Yeah.
So all of this, I'm like looking at all of us in the face. Who is going to be mediating? If the UN is not strong enough, it doesn't seem to have what it takes to intervene. Because this has been going on for years.
Honestly speaking, it's just like someone who rears a bulldog. And the bulldog sees an intruder and attacks. It is so difficult to call that bulldog back, even if you are the owner. You understand what I'm saying? Especially when it is moving, except you are so fast enough to ensuring that, and that fastness, the UN sometimes, the essence of peace is not for you to allow the escalation of the incident to happen. When you perceive the danger coming, intrude immediately to ensuring that it does not escalate, because it may get to an extent where you cannot control it. And these are countries with sovereign flavor who would want to take decisions by themselves, who want to protect their territorial integrity. Palestinians have the responsibility to protect their territorial integrity. The same thing with Israel. When one says that this belongs to me, and the other one says, in what way? It is the survival of the fittest. And now, the issue there is that if UN does not come in with better strategies to ensuring that this situation is being cured, it will continue. That is the truth. The world cannot say that they have actually come to a state where they can bring about world peace. UN have been unhelpful. And I don't think they will be, because the people if you see the countries who make up the UN, the big 5, the United States of America, they have their own problem. The UK, The United Kingdom, they have their own problem. China have their own problem. They all have interests, several interests. What rules the world is interest, personal interest, and not the interest of the world. And that is why there will always be problem, conflict all over.
I just want to say a very big thank you to you, Barrister Precious Yesumonodi.
Thank you.
It's always refreshing to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me
here today.
Thank you for having me.
And now, from Ukraine to Russia to China to the US, and it's 2020 for elections coming up between the Democrats and the Republicans. But within the African shores, you have the coup takeovers, military takeovers, and what have you. Is the world ready to actually pay attention this time to Israel and the Palestinian or Hamas versus the Gaza Strip? These are the questions that we do not have answers to. But guess what? We will always be here to bring you all of this conversation as we make progress. Thank you everyone for being part of the conversation on Atn Sunday Talk today. Now, if you missed any part of it, the rest assured we got you covered, you know. All you need to do is log on to our Facebook and YouTube pages and you get all the juicy details of the information you need. On Facebook and YouTube, we're Atlantic Television Network. You can also log on to our app and our website to get more details of all of this. On our website, we are AtlanticTelevisionNetwork.tv, and our app, we're ATN Live. Now, you can also follow us on other social media platforms and do well to share our content as well. On X, we're Atlantic TV Net. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Atlantic TV Network 1. Remember, the peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your week.